I would love to see you at Access Drive, presented by Sports Business Journal, beginning September 15th in Los Angeles. 3-day program covers topics like facility management, franchise management, ticket revenue, business intelligence. We'll get private tours of Crypto.com Arena, Intuit Dome. We'll hear from Steve Ballmer. Learn more about this conference at sbj-drive.com, or let me know if you have questions and comments. It's going to be a great event. And this is your morning Buzzcast for Wednesday, September 3rd. I'm Abe Madkour. Thanks to Austin Cart for filling in yesterday. We were actually both in Washington, D.C., filming Season 2 of our sports business show, SBJ, Inside the Industry, with Monumental Sports and Entertainment. We touched on appealing to new fans through areas of pop culture. We also have an episode on the state of professional golf. Look for the episodes to debut in a few weeks. Let's get to some news. In a must-read in SBJ this week, my colleagues Alex Silverman and Brett McCormick look at next summer's World Cup and detail how the games will have to be played in clean stadiums, meaning the 15 stadiums that will host cup matches and have long-term naming rights agreements and have sponsor logos throughout the venue will be wiped clean of that branding. Now, this is part of FIFA's long-standing policy ensuring that all World Cup venues are free and clear of existing commercial branding during the tournament. But this process of cleaning stadiums of marks and logos is complex and costly. Now, getting the stadium called by a new name is not as hard as getting the signage and all the different branding off the stadium. We know that FIFA wants to protect the exclusivity that its sponsors are paying for. Remember, FIFA partnership deals can range up to $200 million over a 4-year cycle. Now, yes, the IOC is allowing for the LA28 Olympic Committee to sell naming rights for Olympic venues in Los Angeles in 28, but FIFA is sticking with its policy of requiring all World Cup venues be void of any corporate names. So MetLife Stadium, which will host the World Cup final on July 19th, yes, it'll be known as New York, New Jersey Stadium. Other examples? AT&T Stadium, you guessed it, Dallas Stadium. Gillette Stadium, I think you're onto something. Yes, Boston Stadium. So this will take a lot of time, it'll take money, and most of that still needs to be sorted out. But these are among the many changes you will see next year during the World Cup. Hard to believe, just months away from such a big tournament being played in North America. Let's move on. A big financial hitter with deep pockets is getting under the tent of sports investment. Yes, Apollo Global Management plans to launch a $5 billion sports investment vehicle with the idea of investing in areas such as Premier League clubs and other maybe niche sports. So why is this important? Well, this will be the first time that Apollo Global Management, which is a giant in the finance markets, has targeted specific capital to sports. Apollo will make new hires to lead this sports strategy, and they will focus on deploying that $5 billion to sports leagues, to teams. They could buy stakes in clubs and, like I said, invest in smaller niche sports. Again, early stages, but this is a very big development, and it shows the continued interest of large-scale capital firms investing in sports as an asset class. This is a story to continue to watch. So, as we sit here on September 3rd, which is the team with the best record in baseball? Can you guess? Yes, with less than a month left in the regular season, it is the Milwaukee Brewers, who sit with 85 wins. And that market, that region of the state, is really responding. I was in Milwaukee earlier this month as the team was on its great winning streak. I was there on a day where they drew more than 41,000 fans on a Wednesday afternoon. Games on FanDuel Sports Network have averaged 73,000 households in the Milwaukee market. That is their largest audience in at least a decade. August viewership was up 55% compared to the season-to-date average. So again, a couple of things are standing out about the Brewers' success in this region. First, you can't help but appreciate how this team, in roughly the 39th largest DMA and having one of the lowest payrolls in baseball, has continued to be successful over the years and has really been embraced by this relentlessly loyal fan base. Also, number two, when you ask people around baseball who is often overlooked and who does it right, they will bring up the Brewers and owner Mark Anastasio and his quiet, steady, but respected demeanor and his financial smarts. They also point to the team's really strong business and baseball personnel staff. When I was in the market, the fans were fully embracing the success of the Brewers, but they are understandably anxious considering the team's recent disappointing postseason history. Here's another thing to keep an eye on. If the Brewers do make a deep playoff run, isn't that the talking point that MLBPA's leadership of Tony Clark will latch onto? They could say, payroll disparity doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you spend in baseball. It matters how you perform. Look at the Milwaukee Brewers. They can say it's about solid management and player personnel and that there is no need for a salary cap in baseball. So that would be a storyline to watch. The PA could use the Brewers as a best case scenario for why there doesn't need to be a salary cap in baseball, because all teams, no matter the size of the market or the size of their payroll, can compete. Something to keep your eye on. You know, I couldn't let this go without mentioning it. My good friend who lives in Seattle, he raved about taking his son to the League's Cup final on Sunday. That is where the Seattle Sounders beat Inter Miami to win its first League's Cup title in front of a record crowd of nearly 70,000 at Lumen Field. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly 70,000 fans showed up. My friend called it one of the most raucous and enjoyable sports experiences he has ever been to. And you cannot overlook the massive success of this organization in Seattle, the Sounders, which have won so many various titles over the years. A couple of quick hitters to end the Buzzcast. First, the inaugural Broadway Block Party. That is a collegiate women's volleyball triple header that was held over the past weekend in Nashville, drew 11,000 fans to Bridgestone Arena on Sunday, and strong sponsor support. Sprouts Farmers Market was the biggest investor as the event's title sponsor. We talk on the Buzzcast a lot. Women's volleyball, collegiate women's volleyball, a very strong growth sport. Shifting to the NWSL, Boston Legacy FC, this is the team that will start in 2026, has hired its first team president, Jennifer Van Dyke. She was a SBJ 40 under 40 honoree in 2015. She has had roles at Wasserman, the Clippers, the NBA, IMG. She will become the new team president of this franchise. Legacy FC used Egon Zehnder in its search for its first team president. Now, Jennifer Epstein, who is controlling owner of the club, said what stood out to her was the feedback she received on how effective Jennifer Van Dyke is at building a culture and in seeing a startup come to life. And that's what they're doing there in Boston. They are building a foundation, Now they believe they have someone who can motivate a staff in building this team that will take the field in just a few months as one of the latest franchises to launch in the NWSL. Finally, we lost a great one. George Raveling, he died at the age of 88. He's been battling cancer. He is an SBJ champion of sports business in 2017. He played a key role in Michael Jordan signing that landmark endorsement deal with Nike. George Raveling coached throughout college sports, Washington State, Iowa, USC. He was part of the U.S. Olympic basketball staff. He convinced Michael Jordan to sign with Nike. In fact, Jordan wrote the foreword for George Raveling's book, What You're Made For. George Raveling, who certainly was a champion of sports and sports business, has died at the age of 88. So my 4 takeaways of today's Buzzcast are, first, more and more big investment capital is targeting sports because of the growth rate and potential return. We are seeing this again with Apollo Global Management launching a $5 billion sports fund that will look to invest across sports. Number 2, prepare for clean venues with no naming rights sponsor for the World Cup next summer. This is part of FIFA's effort to protect their sponsors. And so, yes, no AT&T Stadium. Get ready for Dallas Stadium. Number 3, Seattle is likely the strongest market for professional soccer in the United States. We know the game has such a history in the Pacific Northwest, and you just see how that market embraces the soccer leagues in that area. It's a very positive story for the sport. And finally, as MLB heads towards a difficult CBA negotiation, what could the impact of the small market, lower payroll Milwaukee Brewers and their possible postseason success mean for the narrative of both union and management? The union will say it proves everyone can compete. Management, on the other side, will likely say the Brewers' success is an aberration. A story to watch. And that is your morning Buzzcast for Wednesday, September 3rd. I'm Abe Madkour. Thanks for listening. Stay healthy. Be good to each other. I'll speak to you tomorrow.